What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another retro review, and we're here to discuss another retro Ring of Honor event. And in this video, we'll be discussing Ring of Honor Border Wars 2013. This weekend, AEW will be in Toronto, Canada, to present their annual all-out pay-per-view event. So I thought it'd be fitting to go back in time to a Ring of Honor pay-per-view event that took place in Toronto, Canada as well, and settled on Border Wars 2013. There are a lot to choose from. Obviously, the two that came to mind immediately were Border Wars 2012 and Border Wars 2013. And I thought it'd be a little bit more fitting to discuss the 2013 event because, A, it's right in the middle of our previous two reviews that we've done, show reviews that we've done, Death Before Dishonor 2012 and War of the Worlds 2014. And B, it's something that I might be a little bit wrong with, but I thought, reminiscing, that the 2013 event was better than the 2012 event. I will flat out say, and I think everyone can agree, that 2012 had the way bigger and better moment in Kevin Steen winning the Ring of Honor World Championship. But there's a lot to digest and discuss with the 2013 event. There's probably, if you know of the event, and I'm going to show you the DVD cover right now because it's another reason and factor that played into it. You probably know one thing that happened from this event at glance at the DVD cover. That being said, you obviously see I have it on DVD. I put it into my Xbox last night to watch it. It does the FBI warning, and then it just stayed on a black screen. Took it out of the Xbox and put it back in. Same thing. I tried it one more time, and I said, screw it, we're on Honor Club. So I had to watch this on Honor Club, even though I have it on DVD. And I didn't feel like plugging in any other DVD player to see if it worked there. I'll do that down the line. You just want to know what the hell happened at Border Wars 2013. So before we dwell right into the review, a little bit of a timeline of events going on here. We're in 2013 ROH, like I said, right in the middle of our previous two show reviews. And we're towards the tail end of the ROH versus Scum rivalry that took place from 2012 to 2013. And it took a dramatic turn at the 2013 anniversary show because the group originally consisted of Steve Corino, Jimmy Jacobs, and Kevin Steen. And at the anniversary show, they added new members in Jimmy Jacobs, Cliff Compton, Rhett Titus, Rhino, and Matt Hardy. Now, it makes it 2012 going into 2013 is a big year for evasion factions in wrestling. Because I've always thought of this, but in TNA, you had the Aces and Eights. WWE, you had the Shield. Ring of Honor, you had Scum, which out of these that I'm naming, probably the least memorable, even though they were taking over the whole company, trying their best to take over the whole company. And then, to be honest, 2013, you also had in New Japan the beginning of the Bullet Club. So it is something to take note of. Now, the important thing about Scum is that at the Super Court of Honor pay-per-view event, which is one of the better Ring of Honor events of all time, Jay Briscoe defeated Kevin Steen in the main event to win the Ring of Honor World Championship. And Kevin Steen didn't really have a reason to be in Scum because the reason he wanted to end and destroy Ring of Honor was because he hated and did not like Jim Cornette. But towards the end of 2012, he left Ring of Honor. So Kevin Steen didn't really have any reason to be in Scum anymore. And Scum did not really see any reason for him to be in the group once he lost the world title. So he was officially kicked out. Now, this also is a somewhat important event because this is one of the last shows under the Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Noah partnership. As evident, if you fast forward literally a year later, Border Wars turns into Global Wars, which ends up being one of the annual events for Ring of Honor and New Japan's partnership. But on this show, Eddie Edwards faces Taiji Ishimori, and Davey Richards was supposed to face Naramichi Marufuji, but was injured and was replaced by returning for the first time in over 10 years, Paul London. So I caught y'all up on things. 8 matches. Let's get right into it. Border Wars 2013. Adrenaline Rush and CNC Wrestle Factory open things up. Caprice and Tadarius Thomas start the match off. We get quick pinfall attempts from both of them. We get a faster pace once Cedric and ACH tag in. Caprice accidentally kicked Cedric at one point, and this is followed up with an ACH dropkick, and both members of Adrenaline Rush doing a dive to the outside. Caprice hits 3 overhead suplexes. That gets a close 2 count. However, he hits a top rope Hurricane Rana, and Cedric hits the Frog Splash, collectively known as Overtime, to pick up the victory as CNC wins another opening contest in our Retro Review series. CNC was a very fun tag team in ROH history, and I felt they probably should have been the ones to defeat Red Dragon at some point for the Ring of Honor World titles, but World Tag titles. But that never happened. And at the end of 2013, the group breaks up, and Caprice kind of doesn't really he does things on and off, but Cedric did have a lot of good things happen for him in 2014. Next matchup. Bit of a weird matchup. Mike Bennett versus Roderick Strong. And what I mean by weird is that we have a out-of-nowhere finish, but we got to get through the matchup to begin with. Roddy starts strong with several chops in and out of the ring. The crowd gasped after a top rope suplex. A lot of this matchup is the crowd chanting obscenities at Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett. Mainly CM Punk chants, because a lot of Mike Bennett's thing was saying that he is the best in the world. There's another connection between Punk and Mike Bennett and Maria, I guess, but a lot of CM Punk champs happened towards Mike Bennett around this time period, and that's kind of the most notable thing. I'll admit, Mike Bennett did not do a lot in this matchup. He does miss on a spear, with Strong landing a flying knee and backbreaker for a 2 count. Then Bennett taps out to the stronghold, but the referee is distracted by Maria Kanellis. And I told y'all that this finish comes out of nowhere as Cheeseburger comes out and kisses Maria Kanellis. Now, they had a run-in at the previous iPay-Per-View Supercard of Honor. And if you type in Cheeseburger and Maria Kanellis, because I can't do justice to what happened, but let's just say Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis beat up Cheeseburger if they said something, after he said something to them. So he did get his revenge here, and he helped Roderick Strong win after he lands a sick kick on Mike Bennett. And there also is a nice little tie on the bow or thing to wrap this up, is that Cheeseburger's first matchup in ROH, fun fact. He teams with Roderick Strong to face Red Dragon for the tag title. So there's a bit of a connection between these two. Overall, a bit of a weird match. Now, we're getting an I Quit match. Rhett Titus taking on BJ Whitmer. I discussed in the Death Before Dishonor 10 review how Rhett Titus was wronged by ROH because he and Kenny King finally won the tag team championships just for Kenny King to leave and ANX being stripped of the tag team titles. And it gave him more of a reason to join Scum because he, again, felt wronged by ROH. Now, why he's facing BJ Whitmer? BJ Whitmer ended up being his Kenny King replacement when he needed a tag partner down the line. And BJ Whitmer, he feels wronged by Rhett Titus. So now we have an I Quit match between the two. Carino is here, who is the leader of Scum, as I mentioned, but he is escorted to the back very early on. Whitmer is grounded for a lot of this matchup, and Titus looks to keep him that way, and he grabs a pair of zip ties, but he is the one that ends up getting zip tied, leading to Steve Carino coming back with Whitmer, planning on hitting Carino with a chair because he just stands there, and Carino wants Whitmer to do it, but instead, Rhett Titus claims that he quits, and in the matchup, and BJ Whitmer winning. And I'll be the one to say it. Not a lot happened in this match, and off the top of my mind, probably the I Quit match with the least amount of violence, definitely, but anything happening in this matchup. But the action does pick up in our next matchup as more Scum members are here, those two being Cliff Compton and Jimmy Jacobs, who attack BJ Whitmer prior to their matchup, in which they'll be facing Michael Elgin and Jay Lethal. We get an immediate start, like I said, as the Scum members come out, but this is also a very important matchup, as if Scum loses, they have to break up. Which, this is the other thing I need to point out about Scum. As I mentioned at the anniversary show, all the new members that had joined. Jimmy Rave quickly gets hurt and then doesn't show back up for the group. And Matt Hardy and Rhino are on per appearance basis and are not at every show. As evident, they're not at this show tonight, which Rhino is very surprised that he wasn't there, but spoiler, he wasn't there. So, this group that has tried to take over Ring of Honor is Steve Carino, Rhett Titus, Cliff Compton, and Jimmy Jacobs. And one of them Steve Corino's a manager. He's not competing. It's kind of not as threatening, especially because Ace of Days, you got double the amount of guys. The Shield were badasses, and we're always badasses, and the Bullet Club continuously grew and grew, and it's still going on to this day. So Scum fighting an uphill battle for a majority of its after Steen left, they were fighting an uphill battle. That's the best way to put it. But also, I told y'all the stipulation: Scum loses, they're done. They have to break up. But if Scum wins, they earn a Ring of Honor World Championship match, and Steve Corino becomes a commentator with Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness. So what the hell ends up happening? The action is taking place on the outside, but once it goes into the ring, Jacobs and Lethal are the first two legal competitors. Elgin delivers a pair of delayed suplexes to both of his opponents, and then the match takes another turn once Lethal tweaks his knee and is left. It has to leave Elgin on his own 2-on-1 until Kevin Steen appears out of the crowd with pants and taped fist, and he wants to join the matchup. He asks Nigel McGuinness, can he be Elgin's tag partner? He's on the apron, and Nigel allows it to happen. So Kevin Steen is here to save the day. He delivers a pair of cannonballs to both of his opponents in and out of the ring, and a power bomb in and out of the ring. But he tries to give a package power driver to Cliff Compton, with Jimmy Jacobs rolling him up, and Cliff Compton and Jimmy Jacobs pick up the victory and earn a Ring of Honor World title shot at Steve Corino, a commentary spot, which Matt Hardy ends up being the one to get that Ring of Honor World title shot down the line. The crowd was very into this for as much drama that it did provide, I will say that. We have intermission next, which included highlights of previous Taiji Ishimori and Paul London matches, as they are kind of, again, the main highlights of this show. But we have something before we get to one of those matches. We have QT Marshall and RDF's QT Marshall, who, if I'm going to be honest, outside of Caprice Coleman, let me look. All right, I was about to tell y'all all right, never mind. I was going to say, QT Marshall still appears on ROH. That was going to be the main point that I made. And I was like, is he the only person on the show that does that? But no, because Caprice is literally there every week. The Kingdom are there occasionally. Mark Briscoe's there occasionally. But QT Marshall, the one to compete the latest at Death Before Dishonor. But he's here with R.D. Evans, and they are there to tell the fans that they deserve to see a tag team title match tonight. But that cannot happen because Red Dragon are not on the show. And commentary mentioned this, which I don't really know the logic and reasoning and actuality of it. I might have just made that word up. But what Red Dragon seeing that there's going to be Pro Wrestling Noah wrestlers on the show, mainly Taiji Ishimori, and they were not the ones booked to go against these Pro Wrestling Noah wrestlers. They said they did not want any part of the show. There's probably some truth behind it, but I feel it was a bit of an odd thing. But point being, there's no tag team title matchup on the show. There's no Red Dragon on the show. And QT Marshall and RD Evans are aiding the crowd to get behind them and seeing Red Dragon stripped of the tag team titles. But then the mood changes as we hear a very loud beeping noise and the lights flickering on and off, as it is the return of Tommaso Ciampa, who was previously injured the past year and was formerly managed by R.D. Evans, but with the injury, R.D. Evans left him and went to partner up with QT Marshall. And Tommaso Ciampa is seeking revenge on his former manager in R.D. Evans. It was a very cool moment, and there's a very cool thing. Again, this is the cool thing about DVDs. I remember, if you go on the Anniversary Show DVD, I know specifically this DVD, which I couldn't do it yesterday, and I think the DVDs leading up to this event, if you would go on the chapters, there'd be a little Easter egg, and if the Easter, I feel so old explaining this, but I feel if you're watching this video, you know what the hell an Easter egg is. But if you would go on the match listings and then go to the bottom, there'd be a little circle that it would make. And if you clicked on it, it would show you the hype promos for Tommaso Ciampa coming back. So, all in all, a very cool moment. And Tommaso Ciampa had a good run in Ring of Honor. And it feels that so long ago, it feels somewhat forgotten. But we're here to talk about the best matchup of the show up next. ROH versus Pro Wrestling Noah. Eddie Edwards versus Taiji Ishimori. And I will admit, I did not take a lot of notes on this matchup. It is very fast-paced, and I already gave y'all the spoiler. It's the best matchup of the show. Fast-paced start, including Ishimori hitting a moonsault to the outside. Edwards soars and scores with a tope to the outside. We get a backpack suplex and Achilles lock by Edwards. Half Boston Crab, per se, by Edwards as well. Foot stomp by Ishimori gets a 2 count. We get a trio of knees that gives Ishimori a close 2 count. We get several roll-ups from both. A forearm exchange once they're both on their feet. Edwards gets his knees up on Ishimori's 450 splash attempt. We get a top rope hurricanrana and super kick, and then a sit-out powerbomb that gets a close 2 count for Eddie, and then he hits the die-hard driver to pick up the victory. And I believe they said, first of all, Taiji Ishimori, I should have mentioned, they did not mention it until close to the end of the match, but Taiji Ishimori was the junior heavyweight champion in Pro Wrestling, and Eddie Edwards mentioned wanting a shot at that. He probably did get that shot. It probably was in Ring of Honor. I should have did more research on it. But Eddie Edwards does win this matchup in Ring of Honor. And Eddie Edwards is synonymous and known for his many, many matches in Pro Wrestling. So I imagine the match happened. So I will say that. But we do have a title matchup to talk about right now. That being a TV title matchup. Matt Taven versus Mark Briscoe. And Mark Briscoe always wanted to be the television champion, especially because he is a person that is made for TV. And he has a face that's made for TV is the exact quote. And he more so wanted to be champion now. That way himself and Jay could both be champions in Ring of Honor at the same time. Obviously, that happened a lot when they were tag champions, but you understand the sentiment, world champion and TV champion. I thought it was something that should have happened. And spoiler alert, Mark Briscoe never wins the damn TV title, which is still a surprise to me. But I digress. We're here to talk about Matt Taven and Mark Briscoe. We got a nice spin kick by Briscoe, and then it takes Taven to the outside. We got an outside drop kick by Briscoe. The House of Truth, which this is the House of Truth in their hoopla era. They're a bit more chaotic than usual, but they cause a lot of distractions throughout this match and help out Taven, who lands a spin kick in the ring for a 2 count. We get some redneck kung fu by Briscoe, and then Taven gets his knees up on the froggy bow attempt and then hits a net breaker afterwards for a 2 count. Taven slips up on a springboard attempt with Briscoe having to catch him and deliver an Alabama slam. And then I told y'all it was going to get chaotic as Scarlett Bordeaux and Silesia Sparks start to kiss on the apron, and everyone goes wild. And Mark Briscoe got distracted by it, and Taven rolls him up to end this matchup. A bit of a sloppy and chaotic matchup, I will say. And Jay Briscoe had some great words on this matchup, because at the next month's show, we got Jay Briscoe versus Mark Briscoe in the main event. And I'll dwell more into it, but the only I hate that I keep spoiling shit for y'all, but I feel that if you're watching this, you kind of already knew what happened. So, our spoiler, I already spoiled the main event. But point being, anytime I see or think of this moment, I'm just going to quote it. Jay Briscoe told Mark Briscoe that he got distracted by 2 whores in Canada, and it is hilarious to me every time that is referenced. And I'm sorry that I had to say it, but Jay Briscoe said it, so I felt that I owed it to y'all. Now we're here to the matchup that everyone probably does remember from this event, or the thing that happened on this event. That being Davey Richards versus Paul London. Again, Paul London, first time competing at ROH in over 11 years, even wearing the same shirt and gear that he wore from his last matchup. So I appreciate him being able to keep a Ring of Honor t-shirt in shape for 10 plus years, which is impressive nonetheless. We got a test of shorts that goes to the ground early on. Richards seems very frustrated, which we do need to mention. The main event of the previous year's Border Wars was Kevin Steen versus Davey Richards, and the crowd hated Davey Richards then. And a year later, they ain't forget about it. And Davey Richards is very flustered and pissed off throughout this matchup because the crowd still ain't forgot about that. And Davey does angrily toss London to the outside. London lands a double stop in the ring that gets a 2 count. Davey lands a pop-up kick with London landing a super kick afterwards. Davey delivers a tombstone pile driver on the outside of the ring, which Paul London is trying his best to get into the ring, but stays on the apron, in which Davey delivers a foot stomp onto him, sliding and landing across Paul London's face in a very brutal moment that it changed everything about this match. While it does take a while for London to recover, understandably, he does make his way to the top rope with Davey and pushes him off to attempt a shooting star press, but Davey gets his knees up and rolls him up afterwards, leading to Davey picking up the victory and telling the crowd to acknowledge Paul London in his return and for the effort that he put together and still being able to finish the match. Paul London, a Ring of Honor great, does make it a couple more matches in Ring of Honor. Definitely sucks that this happened in this matchup. He was also supposed to wrestle at the next night's TV tapings, but it doesn't happen. But in a good turn of events, the matchup that he was supposed to have was supposed to be against Michael Elgin. And the next time they were in Toronto, which was that August, that matchup does happen at that event. So hopefully a lot of the same fans, if any fan wanted to see that match, were there. Point being, the matchup happened. It's always a treat to see Paul London in Ring of Honor. As now it's time for our main event matchup for the Ring of Honor World title. Jay Briscoe versus Adam Cole, the first of their many matchups that they have in their rivalry. And obviously the rivalry hadn't started here, and towards the end of this year, that's when it takes a dramatic turn and becomes a way bigger deal. But something that I liked, again, Ring of Honor tried their best to get the world title off of Kevin Steen. And once Scum added more members and Nigel McGuinness became the new matchmaker and person in charge of ROH, he made it his goal, again, to get the title off of Kevin Steen. And there's a cool moment to where the Ring of Honor roster surrounds the ring, and Nigel is telling everybody that has rightfully earned a title shot that they will get a title shot. And Mark Briscoe is one of those people. Jay Briscoe is one of those people, which, again, he wins the world title at Supercard of Honor in a very great moment in Ring of Honor history. Adam Cole gets a world title match. But again, if you look at the original poster for this event, it's Kevin Steen and Adam Cole. You know, obviously, card subjects a change is a thing. But again, still, those people that were lined up to get these matches for the Ring of Honor World Championship still get them. But now it will be against Jay Briscoe. So now we have our main event matchup, Jay Briscoe versus Adam Cole. We got a back and forth that turns to Cole's side with a tope to the outside. He later applies a figure four leg lock on the corner post. Jay in the ring lands a series of punches, but is caught with a super kick when he jumps off of the second rope. We got a Death Valley driver on the apron and a neck breaker that gets a 2 count. Cole's figure four in the middle of the ring leads to Jay grabbing the ropes. And then Cole takes it to another level with a German suplex off of the top rope, a Florida Keys, and another figure four leg lock in the center of the ring that Jay is able to get out of. Once they're back on their feet, Jay is pushed into the referee when Steve Corino appears once again and is offering Cole a spot in Scum and has a t-shirt and is trying to help him win this matchup and is on the top turnbuckle in doing so in a moment that never gets referenced and seemingly feels forgotten about and was a badass moment. Nigel McGuinness gives Steve Corino a Tower of London and takes him to the back. With everybody so distracted by this, Jay Briscoe is able to land a Jay Driller on Adam Cole and successfully retain the Ring of Honor World Championship in the main event. Again, I bet you these two become heated rivals in the latter part of this year and all throughout 2014. So, obviously, this is not their best matchup together. But we did have a cool moment with the Nigel Tower in London. And it was kind of a good main event matchup, to say the least. I told y'all that Edwards and Ishimori was the best matchup of the night. Again, considering that we only have 2 Border Wars events in history, 2012 and 2013, I feel there's a lot more to talk about with 2013. The 2012 event, again, has the best moment in the main event with Steen winning the world title. It probably is the better event in general. I don't really know how y'all would measure that. So I was wrong on that. But again, I felt it was more fitting for me to review this show because it was right in the middle of the previous 2 shows that I reviewed. And so I liked connecting those dots. Sorry that my allergies started kicking my ass throughout this video. It's been doing so for the past month or so. So I apologize for that. Again, it's fitting to do this week because AEW and Ring of Honor, by virtue, are in Canada for All Out. And so this week's Ring of Honor review, I should have an All Out preview and predictions of part of that event as well, part of that video as well. So I do appreciate y'all for watching this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you because I'm out for now. Goodbye.